So what? March 12th, 2024. This started at, like, I don't know, 6:45 in the morning. 6:30 in the morning. Must be their gravel trucks. Their cement trucks, I should say. You can hear it. Yeah, it's the cement truck. The same shit. We do this crap all the time. These guys always parking up in my front yard and throwing their garbage out. And, oh yeah, this is gonna go on all day again. Sorry about that. It's not March 12th. It's March 11th of 2025. Yeah. But they'll be doing it again tomorrow. I'm sure. It's what they've been doing for years, people. Okay, so. Oh, what twists and turns we have in life. Honest to God. Alright, so it's March 12th of 2025 at 10 minutes to 7 a.m. in the morning. If you notice, it's quiet. No trucks going around beeping and rumbling and rolling. But yesterday, I think it was yesterday, because the little clip before this was just happened. I think it was yesterday. Either or. The video title of this is going to be called Let's Talk About Rats / Human or Otherwise. Okay? Because we can't forget about the humans, right? Especially in my life. So in the meantime, what's happening here is my son is convinced that there's something living in the walls because he hears sounds. He let me hear something on the cell phone yesterday, but he only let me hear it once. And of course we got into an argument because this has been kind of like going on for, I don't know, 3 or 4 months anyway. And I'm like, oh, and I don't think so because we have cats. He's saying we got rats in the walls, and I'm like, I don't think so. Because if we had rats in the walls, the cats would be going fucking crazy up here. Like, seriously, they'd be looking at the walls, they'd be sitting by the walls, like they'd be agitated, I would think, anyway, more so than, because I have 3 of them, so they have 3 different personalities, right? So, all right, what does he do? He took the opportunity with the bin. Well, he wasn't going to remove the stuff on that side of the wall of the house. That way, not this way. This way is where the garden beds are. That way is where the fence is falling down now because they took everything away. All right. That big open gape of whatever. So, because the landlord wanted it gone, which was my stuff. So some of the things that I need to do outside, honestly, I can't even do because I don't have, well, I can do, but I either have to find new stuff to do it with, or maybe I'll get lucky and find something in the yard which will be just enough for what I need to finish what I need to do with the walkway, right? Because I have to run lights in there a little bit too, So I need my piping, but my piping is gone because my landlord said, get rid of everything. And then my son did what she was told him to do, right? And with that, what it did is it opened up this, it opened up the wall because the stuff was up against the wall under the soffit so it wouldn't get wet, right? And with that, my son's been going around looking to see if there's entrance points. This video might end up becoming more than just one video because it will get long, right? So he looked for entrance points where rodents, because it could be a raccoon, possums do move into houses, rats move into houses. There's the roof rat and the Norway rat. So I'm thinking the black rats, the ones about the size of the fist, and those ones you don't want in your house, okay? I think those ones are called the Norway rats. And then the roof rats are those big ones that normally like to live outside. So living in a roof, I could understand why, because what they do is they climb on roofs. They do. They climb on, you know, they've been in the X Club because they climb in on the roof, get in, and right, and, you know, every now and then I, you know, go in and spring comes and I realized that a rat had moved in. And I mentioned that where I had walnut shells. The walnut was out of the shell, the English walnut, right? The walnut was out of the shell, but the walnut shells were in the X Club in plastic bags, and I guess the rats over the winter, one rat, okay, especially with those big ones, I guess they're called roof rats. They're more loners, really, they are. They like to burrow outside under things, right? We discussed that, okay. Oh, I don't even know what I was saying. All I know is I'm fucking getting stressed out here because my son is asking me to now make... You don't believe me! Like, it's not like I don't fucking believe you. It's just that I, myself, Andre, we haven't noticed anything. Absolutely anything. And I'm up. Like, rats come out at night, right? You know, they're nocturnal. They like to sneak around when you're not around or sleeping and whatever, right? You know, they're very active at night. And I get up anywhere from, I'm either up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, or I'm getting up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. Just because of, you know, my workload and just my energy, whatever, right? You know, if I do a 16-hour shift, obviously I'm going to rest for a day or two or whatever until I can get back that energy. Because I'm not as young as I used to be. I can't bounce back as fast. But when I got the energy, people, I give it my all. I put in the long hours. Like, you know, I only wanted to go outside there a couple days ago for 2 or 3 hours, and I was out there for 7.5. And if the weather would have not gotten so cold and start getting dark, I probably would have stayed out another hour or 2 or 3 because I had the energy. But the next day, oh, I was, right? You know what I'm saying? So anyway, okay, let's stay focused on the rats because this is like now starting to cost me money because my son wants me to get an exterminator to locate where they are. Even though he went off and bought a whole bunch of rat traps, sticky tapes, put them all over the place, and hasn't even caught one rat yet. Now, keep in mind, I have a house full of freaking food, okay? I did go out of my way, and I know I'm getting loud here, and I don't care if my son's going to work and listens to me about doing my YouTube channel, whatever it is. Life is what life is. Okay, Andre's got a little job. He's going to learn how to use a pressure washer. He's going to be mowing grass, right? With or without electric. It could be a push, whatever. You know, he's going to be using a weed whacker regularly because this is a weekly thing, okay, for him to go 1 or 2 hours a week, I guess. And then with that will come other things to do within the property of where he's working, okay? So why not learn about rats too? You know, he can say, oh, well, you know, since we're out here, my mom, you know, my nan is going on about rats and have, you know, do you have any problems with rats? Listen to him, even Amari's up. He woke up at like 5:30 this morning, little bugger. I've been up since, I don't even know. And it's quiet when I get up and I'm listening and I'm waiting to hear something and I don't hear what my son is hearing. What I hear is, you know, these wood floors, the imitation wood floors. I don't know what they're called, but they're called imitation wood floors. All right, you know, they piece them in, they use glue. Now, keep in mind, I've been here for 14 years. Apparently, these things were supposed to be new when I moved in. So after 14 years, these things have been walked on, you know, there's shit, whatever, right? The house is shifting, the house settles. We've got these big ass freaking rumbling trucks, 7 at a time sometimes, people. I have videos to prove it. Like, really, will the real rat step up? For all we know, whatever the fuck is going on, it could be because of those trucks outside with their grinding of their cement and their rumbling and bumbling and their booming and banging and their whatever, because it shakes the house. It literally, sometimes it can shake the house. Or when my son leaves to go to work, he slams the basement door and things rattle. Right? You know what I'm saying? So over 14 years, these floors have settled. Okay? And the glue is not as strong as it was. Right? My bathroom tiles in my bathroom have been cracked from the first moment I moved in. They were cracked, and they're still cracked. So when you go and you walk on those floors, you hear it, right? Okay, the house was built in 1962, but the beauty of this house, though, is because it was built in 1962, the wood that they used for the framing is a lot stronger. That's where you get in these houses, because I seen that with the little house, when I had the little house for Sierra, right? And that dude started to demolish it, and I went in after the drywall was taken out, and you know, the beams, the 2x4s, like, they were not your regular standard cedar freaking 2x4. They were fucking hardwood. I'm sorry, boo-boo hardwood. And not only that, okay, so not only are the 2x4s stronger in these types of houses, right? But the main beams that are joisted in within the house, they're stronger too. So if an earthquake was to come, you go under a door frame. Literally, in a house like this, you go under a door frame and you stand under a door frame, and everything else will come crumbling down around you, where chances are that door frame won't buckle. It just won't, because of the type of structure, the way it was built, with the type of materials it was built with. All right. So, but houses still settle, right? Things get, you know, like these floors are not brand new. Let's face it, 14 years, they've had a lot of stress on them, right? The glue has come loose. You know, things have shifted a bit, right? And I said to him, maybe what you're hearing is walking on the floors, right? Because what we hear upstairs would sound different downstairs, right? And if I'm walking quietly, because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, let's just say, for example, and everybody's sleeping, and the Africans aren't partying, because you can't forget them, because they're always booming their music. But besides that point, you know, I'm sitting here where I am. You think I'd hear it. And if the cats are in the house, which they normally are at night, right? That's 3 of them. 2 of them are misers. The other one, not so much, okay? If something was scurrying around, right? Okay? The cats would be going, they'd go and investigate. Okay? That's just a given. Right? And that doesn't happen. If they were in the walls upstairs, we'll just talk about rats, right, for now, okay? Because there could be a possum, it could be a squirrel. If a squirrel moves into your house, I read, right? I'm reading up now. Oh, wow, joy. If a squirrel moves into your house, it will come in October or sometime like that, right? I guess in the fall, and maybe have its babies, and then by March or so, it will leave, okay? They don't like to stick around and continue living in a house, but they will come into a house if they can, preferably up in the attic someplace, which my son wouldn't hear. So, you know, you can almost rule out a squirrel if that's what he's hearing, right? And then they'll leave because they run, you know, they run the power lines and stuff. And, you know, squirrels like to be up high. And so, you know, chances of a squirrel being in the house, it would be up in the roof. If they're raccoons, Well, raccoons will nest in attics, right? Attics, right? But if there was a family of, and they would nest as a family, right? More than likely. You're not going to get a sole raccoon up in your attic compared to a family of raccoons. Because it would become a den then, right? And you would definitely hear them scurrying around, I would think. Okay, you know, they're not necessarily a small animal, right? And they like to come out mainly at night. So again, if there was something scurrying around at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the fucking morning, because I could be up at any time, you don't know, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I do all hours. I'd hear it. The cats would be looking up at the ceiling. They would be following the sound, and they don't. Okay, so we can, and if they are in the basement, it would be like the neighbors over here next door. They have a laundry room, that, you know, a closed off laundry room, and then you open a door and then you're in the basement, right? So you got the basement with the closed kind of whatever, here's your laundry room, right? It could be part of the house, I'm not sure, because of the way that guy broke up that basement into 3 separate suites. And then under the laundry room, as you went into it, before you could get into the house, raccoons had gotten underneath it, into the ground, where the, I don't know, maybe it had a crawl space or something, but it was enough for them to move in there and make a den, and it was a whole family again, where they had to get a raccoon pest, person to take them out. And yeah, that was a big chore. They had to dig everything out because they went in actually quite deep. But that was under the foundation, okay? It's a little different. Raccoons, there's only so many places they're going to live in your house. So I don't think we have raccoons in the house. And if we have a squirrel, well, it would be more than likely upstairs, and it would be moving out soon. But this is, he wouldn't hear a squirrel. Okay. Now, I should mention, and I don't know if he's aware of this, but when it rains, like for me, I can hear it through my oven vent, the pipe, right? I can hear it. As soon as I sit and I hear the rain come, I can hear it, right? And the way it echoes within the pipe itself could be misleading in terms of, if you weren't aware of what it really was, in terms of rain hitting the metal and echoing as it's within the pipe system itself as a vent, right? You might think it was a rodent. Now, he has an oven, like a stove with an oven vent, but I think that vent just goes outside into the garage. It's not all the way up to the roof, right? So how that would, be affected by rain, I don't know. But maybe he's hearing, I don't know, he's insisting it's in the walls. But if it was in the walls, they wouldn't just stop, I would think, in the basement. I think they would migrate upstairs. And as a matter of fact, they would, because the first house that I ever got with Uncle John, right, when we decided to get a place, I rented this old, beautiful, it had big, beautiful bay windows, everything. They painted upstairs, they put new carpet, you know what I'm saying? In the basement, though, somebody was living down there, apparently the owner, and they rushed me through it real fast, and I never really got to see it, but it was big enough to, have me upstairs with the kids, and then, wherever John's room was going to be, but also have the basement with the kitchen so that Joan could come over. And they could sit in the kitchen, and John could have his own little suite kind of thing, because it was 2 stories. Okay? So I had a cat. Anyway, they said I couldn't keep my cat. And I said, why? Oh, okay, but we really wanted a house. It was $1,200. It was beautiful with the bay windows. It was nice. Okay, but the house itself was terrible after I moved in. So anyway, okay, I agreed to get rid of the cat. So I gave the cat away. We moved in, and I already had buckets with food in it, flour and that kind of stuff. You know, the big buckets with the big lids, right? The ones that I just spent like $5,000 on and invested in and have them in Auntie Shimei's room for backup food storage. You know what I'm saying? With my beautiful organic wheat and my Cantatelli beans organic or whatever, or freaking rye, just the whole 9 yards, right? Because I know what it's like to have fucking rats, okay? And I'm like, nah, it's okay. I got the money. I'll just stick my neck out. And if I'm going to do food prep to that degree, I'm going to do it in the right kind of way, right? So I did. All right. So, but when I moved into this house, I had 1 or 2, 3, maybe that's all, right? With a little bit of flour, something and something, eh? And I don't know. We were only there for a day or two. No more than 2 days. Not even 2 fucking days, okay? I got up in the morning. There was this hole in the bucket about this big. And I'm like, okay. I opened up the bucket and there was one of those black rats that I talk about all the time, sitting in the bucket. Oh, so I quickly put back on the lid and John, you know. Anyway, long story short, we put rat poison out and what it did is it killed them. What rat poison does is it draws them out of the walls because they go looking for water, right? They go looking for water and so therefore they come out. So when they come out, you can see them. They're really drowsy and floppy and they're on their deathbed, okay? So you catch them and just drown them or whatever and that's, you'd be done with it, right? And but if they die in your walls, which one did, ugh, it was awful. You're smelling that shit for like a month as it's decomposing in the wall. But after we de-ratted, there was a lot of rats in that house, people. Now, we didn't notice it, but then we had only been there for 2 days. Okay? So as soon as all the food was gone, and I moved in because the upstairs, they did whatever. They refurnished it, you know, whatever. Renovated it. The downstairs, the dude was living down there. He moved out. And when he moved out and I moved in and I actually got into the basement to look and see what the hell we rented in terms of, because they rushed me through really fast, right? Oh my God. There was mold up in the rafters, right? It had rafters. Oh, right? The whole thing was covered in mold. I ended up, for like 6 months, wearing freaking shit over my face, right? Cleaning that fucking mold, because I was going to get it ready for John and Joan, right? Okay. And it had, on one corner of it, the property itself had a drainage problem, but it had this, I don't know what the hell it was. It kind of looked like a well when it was filled up with water. It was like maybe 10 feet long, at least 10, 12 feet long by, another 6 feet. It was just this one rectangle thing that was deep. And when it rained, it filled up with fucking water. It was kind of scary, like from a horror movie, honestly, because I couldn't figure it out. Like, what the hell, what is this? I've never seen anything like this before. Oh, okay. So anyway, how much food that dude had in the house, I don't know. But when I moved in, those little buggers were hungry, okay? Because they went straight and beelined for my buckets within 1 or 2 days of moving in. So I figure, and I try and explain this to my son, but he won't listen to me, okay? So I said, look, there is so much food in this house. You would know if there was rats. So I had him look around in Auntie Shimei's room. I said, look around in Auntie Shimei's room, you know, because there's a few compromised things in there that I would prefer to have buckets but are not. But the last time I checked them, they were fine. But I haven't been down there for 5 or 6 months. But I'm going to have to get down there, people. You see, that's the thing, right? But he did check. He said he checked and he didn't see anything. Okay, fair enough. I don't have in my room, I don't have a lot of stuff like I have downstairs. Mostly of what's in my room is in jars, or it's pre-jarred products from the grocery store, right? Or in cans, okay? So we got a lot of, I've got 2-gallon buckets in my room for my personal use. This is why I want a better kitchen, but besides that point, that will come soon enough. I may not be able to enjoy it, but somebody else will. At least I know there will be food in the house, because you know when I leave this place, I'm taking my food with me. Okay? So, alright, we've got 2-gallon buckets in my room. We've got, you know, like hot sauce and jams and, you know, sweet sauce, soya sauce, those kind of things, right? And then we've got like tomato can paste. I don't put a lot of tomato products in my room, but I do have tomato paste in there. And then, you know, we've got like pie paste, like pie fillings in cans, obviously the salmon, obviously the corned beef, that kind of stuff, tuna, sardines. I have in boxes, which ain't no rodent gonna get into that, right? And then I have a couple of my Rubbermaid bins with rice in them, and the last time I checked, they were fine. Now, this last little bout that I did put into my room, as I was pulling out the fabric, I had those organic Cantatelli beans in Marlar bags with oxygen absorbers, and then I put them in a box, taped them up. I'm more concerned about moths than I am about rats. Let's just put it that way, because I'm taping the box, even though, right? Because if a rat really wanted to get in there, it would be nothing for them to chew that. And I'll use this as an example, and then we'll get back on what's basically in my room. Tisha, I gave Tisha a cat. Her name is Bella. At one point, because Tisha had mice because there's mice in the building itself, right? So she had a problem with mice before the cat moved in, okay? The mice would come out and sit on the floor 2 feet away from Kyrie as a little baby and eyeball him down. In other words, the mouse was just sitting on the floor looking at Kyrie as Kyrie's looking at the mouse. And the bloody thing wouldn't move. Alright? That's how cocky they got. Hey? I gave Tisha a big box of cornmeal, paid $75 for it. She stuck it off to the corner. I told her to put it in jars. She didn't listen to me. And then eventually she went to go move the box, get the box, I don't know. But she had discovered that something had chewed in there and had babies. So she threw out the whole bloody box. Oh, sure, just throw out $75. What do I care? Okay. So, all right. And then by that point, she decided to take a cat, because I had a cat to give away. Kittens, right? So she took Bella. As soon as Bella moved in, the mice moved out. Literally. They did. They moved out. And so she had the cat for a long time. No problems with mice. No standoffs with kids with mice. Nothing. And then we decided to get her fixed. So Bella came back here for a couple of 2-3 weeks or whatever it was. And I'm pretty sure, okay. So as soon as the cat was here, guess what came back? The mice. The mice showed right back up. It's like they knew the cat wasn't in the apartment and they left. I mean, they came back in. So Bella went back after she got fixed. And what happened? The mice disappeared again. Okay? This is not a fable. This is true. All right? This is not story time. This is reality. All right? And then one brave, lone female mouse decided one day to have a batch of babies under Tisha's bed. And what happened? Tisha woke up in the morning and she told me that Bella massacred them all. Caught each and every single mouse and killed them all and left them all over the floor for Tisha to pick up when she woke up in the morning with a bunch of dead baby mice and the mother. That's how fast that cat got that mouse. Outside of that, that's the one time and only one time that Tisha has seen mice in her house since that cat's been there. What does that tell you? And that's coming from an apartment building infested with mice. So when people say, oh, you got rodents, you clean up the yard for rodents. I'm like, I don't have a real problem with rodents any more than your standard. They're all over the province. Okay? If you got such an issue with fucking rodents, why don't you kill each and every rat in the province like Alberta does and then come talk to me? Okay? Because last time I checked, I could walk to the corner store and there'll be 2 rats running down the road trying to get there first. So, you know, like, it's stupid. All right. So, and I lived in a house with mice too. All right. I'll tell you that story, and then we'll get back to what's in my room in terms of rat attraction. Okay? Now that it's on my mind. I had a boyfriend. I was 18 years old. You don't want mice in your house. God forbid. Ugh, it's awful. We rented this old farmhouse. We moved in. He had a dog. We moved in. And sure enough, the whole house was infested with mice. It was infested with mice. But couldn't bring in a cat because his dog would have ate the cat, right? So as we lived there, I had no choice but to put up with those things. Like if you live in an apartment building, you know, because they just keep coming back, even if you try and poison them or catch them or whatever, because there's too many of them, right? Well, that's the way that house was. You know, I'd roll up, you know, you open your curtains and then you roll them up, right? You put a little tie on them or whatever. And then you want to close your curtains. You'd untie it. You'd unroll it. And all of a sudden a mouse would pop up at you. Like they get into the strangest shit. They get into everything. They just don't hang around in the kitchen. They like to hang on shit and cling on shit and nestle in shit. No, you know, so if I had mice, trust me, I'd be going ballistic. If I had rats, if I truly myself felt that we had a problem with rats in the house, I'd be going ballistic. But my son now has me on a rat hunt because he's convinced that something's in the walls. All right. And that's the topic of this video. Okay, but he won't listen to my experiences in terms of, well, right? Now, he has Elsie downstairs, and she's 14 years old. She still smells like a cat, but she's not active like a cat because he's got her locked in the basement, in the bathroom, in the laundry room, basically 24/7 because she's old and she's dying. But he's just letting her have a natural death. So she sleeps a lot, and she drools, and, you know, she still eats and goes for pets. Sometimes I hear her meowing, but, you know, because she's, right? Is that enough to keep rats out of the house? I don't know. It's better if you have a cat that can prowl, obviously, because they're going to go and seek it out, and then they'll stalk it. Okay, if a cat thinks that there's a rat or a mouse that they can catch, they'll spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours stalking that thing until they catch it. Okay? So, I don't have that problem with these cats up here. If they stalk anything, it's a moth. And they'll eat the moths. Because sometimes, they'll be stalking something. You can see that they're, intense on, and then they, and they catch it and you see them eating the moth. Like the bigger moths, not the little moths, but the bigger ones. Because sometimes the bigger ones get into your house, right? Or a spider. They'll catch the wolf spiders and they'll eat the wolf spiders. Those kind of things, right? So, there's no indication for me that we definitely no mice. And if there's a mouse, they'll stalk it. Because sometimes when they come in from outside, they'll have something in their mouth, okay? Right? And it will either be dead or it will be alive, okay? And it might not necessarily be as injured as I would like it to be now that it's inside my house, right? And if it gets out of the mouth and it can scurry off and get into something, well, I've had that happen a few times over the years, right? And we've been successful at catching it at some point, right? But I'm not always around. Like one time, I had some jars underneath my table. I don't know. I guess one of those cats caught a bird, and somehow it ended up in the jar. And when I went to go, move things around and clean the floor and just whatever, there was like a little dead bird in there that had been there for quite a long time. So how that little dead bird got in that jar outside of a cat, I'll never know. Okay. And then, you know, if there's like something, they'll stock it. They'll stock it. It won't last long. And if it's a male, you know, it's not going to procreate. And if you had mice in the house, you would fucking know. Trust me. Okay? Because they climb on things. They like to hang on fabric and that kind of shit. You know, I got curtains here. Like, you know, I don't know about, I don't think they have curtains downstairs, but I do. And they're not going to stay in half a house. No. And, you know, I'm not saying, like, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if Elsie, her scent is strong enough. But they would see him. He had a mouse down there one time. And he put out a mouse trap and he caught it. That was like, about 7, 8 years ago. There was one mouse that was in the house. And my son caught it with a rat trap. Because it wouldn't go away. But other than that, that's the only mouse that I've ever known about being in this house. Honest to God. They had a rat come in from outside, from the garage, run into the house, got itself in the bathroom somehow. They caught it, and I don't know what they did with it. I'm assuming they threw it back out and let it go. And that was just because it came in from the basement, from the garage. And it was one of those roof rats, the big ones, that don't like to live in houses. And if they are, they're going to be up on the roof because they're going to go up through the pipes, you know, the vents, right? And then crawl out and stuff. But now there is a rat that likes to live in pipes, like water pipes, which I just learned, and I'll discuss it with my son, but I don't think we have that problem. All right. So, never did get rid of those mice in that house with my boyfriend and his dog. That was the one that used to beat the shit out of me. Okay? I got rid of the mice when I jumped out the window and ran away. That's how I learned all about mice, was in that house. Okay? And then, of course, we've got Tisha with her story, and Bella, which she you know, Bella's on the job. Okay. Now, in terms of what's in my room to attract a rodent, whether a mouse or a rat, most of everything's in buckets, jars, or cans. There are a few plastic containers in there, heavy plastic with rice for easy access. But, you know, a couple months ago, everything was fine. I did move in the last recent batch of organic Cantatelli beans, and if, you know, those kind of things, whether vacuum sealed in vacuum seal bags, or whether in Mylar bags, and then in boxes, and rice. I've got rice in there in its original bag, in a Mylar bag, which, if there was quote-unquote rats in my room, I would know about it very quickly, because, well, you see, that's the thing. Where I put those boxes, I put them on my bed where the fabric was. Right? But if there was rats in my room, I would have already noticed it with the rice that's in the plastic containers. Because rats chew through containers to get to food, because of that bucket that was in that house when I moved in with John. Right? So even when you're buying buckets with gamma lids, thinking you're protecting your food from rodents, not necessarily true, because they can chew through the plastic, because I've already experienced it. But what the bucket does, though, when you're preserving food, is it keeps it away from moisture, which is important, right? It seals everything tight so that nothing can get in when it comes to a quote-unquote pest, like a moth or those kind of things, right? Right? It would have to, the moth would have to go in with the food and be sealed into the bucket before it could, right? Because, you know, it's like putting food in a jar. You seal the jar, you come back, and you can see that something had had a party in there and multiplied in terms of a moth. So, but in the bucket, in a Mylar bag or whatever you got, it's not going to get in. So, you know, and they're convenient to carry and they're convenient to stack. But it's moisture is a big one, right? Keeping it out of the light, you know, bringing it more down to an ambient temperature where it's consistent, right? Giving it insulation from heat, from cold. So that's what I like about the bucket thing that I did when I was doing the buckets, right? And you'd hear them, right? You'd hear them. So there's really not much in my room outside of the little bit that I just put there that could be, that quote unquote could be at risk. But before I'd put that at risk, I'd put what would be in Shemai's room in terms of not being in a bucket, like a 5, 6 gallon bucket, right? Versus being in a cardboard box with your beans vacuum sealed in vacuum seal bags and then stacked into the box, which I do have that in Shemai's room. That would be an easy target for a mouse and most definitely for a rat. And once that starts, they don't stop because it's their food source. Now, my son seems to think that if we have rats in the walls, they're bringing in their own food. Well, I highly doubt that because, like anything, they go with the path of least resistance. That's why they normally move into houses, because there's an available food source for them, right? So not only are they going to get into your pantry, quote unquote, whatever's in your pantry if they think they can get away with it, but they're also going to get into your kitchen and look for things there. So you would notice their droppings, whether they're mice or rats, okay? I'm so he's got me racking my fucking brains, and now I have to go to court and prove to him that there's no rats in the house. But there might be, so I guess I have to, give it a fair shake, right? You know what I'm saying? Better to catch them now than catch them later. So I'm not too worried about what's in my room, because what went in my room only went in my room in the last month, right? And it's not very much. It's well packaged in terms of for smell and that kind of thing. And it's and now that I'm aware, I can set out a few things in the environment where if there was a rodent in my room, quote unquote, because it's crawling in from the walls, because they live in the walls, right? They're not running around having dinner with you. They wait for you to finish dinner and go to bed. Okay, because they like to come out at night, especially like rats and that type of thing, right? Because it's quieter and whatever, right? That's when they really go hunting for food. So now I'm online, spending money, because he wants me to maybe get an exterminator to investigate what we have, because he hasn't proven that we've gotten anything yet. He's just insisting that we do. I'm looking at $500 to $4,500 to see if we even have anything in here, depending on how this guy wants to play me in terms of, a pest control guy. Oh, well, we got to do this, and this first, and this is going to cost that, and then if that does, and then if that doesn't work, then we got to do this, and this, and then see what happens. And that's going to cost you, right? Before you know it, you got $1,000 bill, and you haven't caught one damn thing yet, and you don't even know what the hell you're chasing. I don't want to be in that position, people. No. So I need to get my Inspector Gadget freaking, what do you call it, magnifying glass going on here. Right, with some backup of whatever. So okay, so now I'm online, because he's Google, right? Have you ever Googled? Have you ever read up on it? You don't know what you're talking about. No, maybe I don't need to, because I already experienced it. Several times in different locations. I reminded him yesterday when he started it on me. Like, what the fuck? I said, Jesus Christ, I had more houses long before you were even born. Like, you know, like, fuck, I'm like 63 years old. Like, talk to me with some respect or something here, because I'm getting kind of tired of you treating me like I'm a bloody 2-year-old and that I don't know nothing. Right? But just in light of his frustration, you know, and in light of, you know, like when I see him, I think the first thing I'm going to say to him is, with the amount of food that I have in this house, with the amount of money that I spent on buying that food, with the amount of time that I took out of love from my heart to preserve that food so that it could be well protected from the elements and including rodents, right? You know what I'm saying? What makes you think that I'd be comfortable with having freaking rats or mice or any kind of rodent in the house that could eat my shit and pollute it? Like, where do you get off on accusing me that that's the way I want to live? Because I'm not quick to jump on the bandwagon to say, yeah, we got something in the walls, because it hasn't caught my attention yet, people. I haven't heard anything. First he said it was on the floor, under the, like, on a ceiling, right? Running around doing something. So he put a few rat traps up there, didn't catch a damn thing. Now he's saying it's in the walls. And he let me hear something one time. And it sounded like this. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, we are always in the living room here. We move around. You know, I have an old creaky couch, right? We know the floorboards are not brand new and tightly glued in, and the house is shifted and things are, you know, right? You know what I'm saying? Amari makes sometimes certain sounds when he's playing with whatever, he's banging or scratching or doing whatever, right? And so I don't know. I don't know. So now I'm on a rat hunt. That's all I know. If it was mice, I don't know. He'd be crying on about, because the mice would be, he'd see them. They'd come out. Elsie's in the laundry room all the time. Right? They don't let her in the basement anymore. I tell them when she's dead, they need to get another cat. But they don't want one, so they can learn the hard way. Right? Or maybe they'll get lucky and never have that problem. Okay? I'm just saying. But in the meantime, Elsie is just in the laundry room. So if a mouse felt safe to run around in Shimei's room and in their kitchen, they'd know about it by now. That's just the way mice are. They're cocky. They will come out. They'll run right past you. Anyone that's got mice in their environments know that. Even if you try and kill them, they still keep coming back. Right? Yeah, you'd have to fumigate the whole building, whatever it is, and by everything, and even then, who knows, right? That's why they never get rid of them in apartment buildings, like all these buildings that they're building right now, blasting that they're so beautiful. Yeah, well, we know what's going to happen within 8 to 10 years, even maybe sooner than that. They'll be mouse infested, bug infested, because people on YouTube are already talking about those buildings being that way. So it is what it is. So in the meantime, I'm looking online here, right? And that's another thing. Rats in large numbers, in terms of, you know, being in the house, living in walls or whatever, which would be the Norway rat, the smaller ones, the black ones, they have a social pecking order. Yeah, okay? So they'd be scurrying. Is that scurrying? I don't know. They'd be gnawing on things and scratching, because they have to gnaw on things to keep their teeth groomed. Otherwise, I don't know, I guess they keep growing or something. And they fight. And they squeak and fight and toss around, because they're more of aggressive rodent, right? Very territorial, even though they run in a pack, because they have a pecking order. He's not telling me that's what he's hearing. He's not hearing that. That's not what he's hearing. Because if he was hearing that, he'd let me know that. And so far, he hasn't said that. Right? He says he hears, and then if he hits the wall or whatever, it stops, which a rodent will do. It will just stop moving. But it could be, they say, the joists, I guess, things within the frame itself is settling. So, and that's another thing. Temperature affects the way a house will creak, right? And settle and just whatever, okay? If it's cold outside, the house is kind of cool, and then you turn up the heat. It's like anything when hot and cold come together. What happens? It can either, right? Or right? Well, it's the same thing here. It's an old creaky house. It's cold outside. You turn up the heat, and sometimes you can hear the house settling or just whatever, reacting to that. Or these windows, they ripped out these windows and they put in new windows, right? So ultimately, they affected the frame, the main frame of the original window. So when the sun comes, for example, and it's beaten on this window here, but even though it doesn't get a lot of sun on this one, it will crack a little in here. But that's when there's something like heat. Or it's cold, and I turn up the heat, and because the heat is right here and the window is there, and the air goes like this, same thing with that one over there. Hot and cold, I notice, will do that, right? And, or being very hot for a long period of time, or whatever. So they said that things settling within the walls, I don't remember what they called it, but honestly, I have to write this shit down, because if I don't and I try and explain it to my son, he will just balk at me and tell me I'm whatever, and fucking just, like, I don't have time for this shit, people, like, in terms of being put down. Because, like, you're an idiot. If you honestly think that I'd be fucking happy to have fucking rats in the house and just ignore the problem, then, you got some serious fucking psychological problems, because you're not the one that spent 20 fucking grand on food. I am the one that spent 20 fucking grand on food here. Okay? And, like, those 2 cans of beans sitting outside that were in that freaking recycle bin, you don't know how choked I came with that when I found it, because those could be mine, that are being thrown out without me freaking even, and I don't buy great value beans and none of that stuff very often. Well, not very often. I bought it a few times. That was it. I normally go with name brands because I want the better can. But you can't even buy good cans that much anymore, right? Depending on the product, right? Because they're buckling. You know how we talked about them buckling on their own? Well, those 2 cans had a little buckle at the bottom of the seam, because of the inferior manufacturing, but whoever threw them out just threw them out. And as far as I know, it could be mined from downstairs, and why they'd throw them out, I don't know, outside, other than to be spiteful, which is another kind of fucking rat in the house, right, in terms of being spiteful and being vindictive and just whatever. But besides that point, that's why I included humans. I'd like to think that they're not that stupid, outside of they think they're always going to have food, and one day they're going to not have food, and they'll be reminded by God, if they even believe in God, that they were throwing out food to be spiteful. Therefore, karma's a bitch, right? Because at the end of the day, I took those 2 fucking cans and I put them on the garbage can up there by the road, on top of the garbage can, with a 5-cent or 10-cent empty freaking can, so that if some person walked down the street, whether homeless or broke, it didn't matter, and they wanted those cans, and they wanted to see if those cans, what was inside, was good, because they were hungry, or maybe they wanted to feed their dog. So be it. Not just throw them in the garbage. If they were bulging, then yeah, maybe I could see it, but they weren't fucking bulging, which tells me that the food inside was good. So who the fuck is throwing out good food around here? After everything that's gone on already. Think about it. So if I'm going to get bent out of shape over 2 measly cans of great value beans yet, of all things, why wouldn't I be on top of it on a freaking catch the rat hunt? He came to me, he told me, I said fine. He told me he was going to get rat traps. I said good luck. I don't think we have them, but you never know. Go ahead, try it. He tried it. He didn't catch anything. And he's making me, trying to make me feel guilty as if somehow it was my fault that he didn't fucking catch anything yet. And now he's looking for me to go pay hundreds of dollars to get an exterminator or call up Mrs. Gill. Well, first of all, you need to fucking figure out what it is that you have first. And you need to make sure that you have it. So that's where I'm at with this now. Because he's guilt-tripping me over this stupid shit. Well, you don't believe me. No, it's not that I don't believe you. I just don't see the signs. So, probably not mice, because Elsie's no longer in the quote-unquote basement. If there was mice in the house, the only place they would congregate at this point would be in the basement, because there's too many fucking cats upstairs. Okay? Or they'd be sneaking around in my room, and because I don't open up my room very often, you know, maybe they'd think that they have a safe place. But you would think that I would come across their droppings because they're quite dirty little creatures and like to crawl all over everything. And so far, when I'm in there doing what I'm doing, looking after my fucking food, I don't find any of that crap. But with what my son is saying, I said to Andre yesterday, well, maybe what I will do is I'll open up my bedroom door for a couple of days. Yeah. I'll just open up my door. I'll make it so that they can get in and out. Do what they want. If there's a rat in there, if there's a fucking mouse in there, trust me, they will catch it. And if they can't catch it, they'll let me know that it's there. And then I'm going to catch it. I'm just saying. Right? Because they're only going to go where there's food. Right? They don't like to take long drives to go shopping, right? They like their food in their neighborhood. You know, kind of like a smart city. Like, what the hell, eh? All right. I can't, honestly, I couldn't see mice just living in my bedroom because I have a few containers of rice in there where they might be able to chew through it. Like, I just don't see that happening. But I'm going to open up my door for a couple of 2-3 days and just leave it open and they can go in and out and investigate. The reason I don't like that though is because sometimes they spray. They like to scent their area. And I don't like that. I come, ugh. So I prefer to keep the cats out. Or maybe I'll do this instead. I'll make it easy for a bugger to eat something that will kill them. But this is where you have to be careful because if you kill them and they're living inside the house and they die inside the house, you're going to smell it for quite a while until the decomposition stage stops. So that's why, in my opinion, it is better to use quote-unquote rat poison, right, to kill them because what they do is they come out looking for water. You need to bring them out of the walls in order to catch them and pick them up and dispose of them after the fact of their death, okay? Right? And even then, there's no guarantee you won't get one dying in the wall because I know from experience, right? And then you're stuck with it until it goes away. And it takes quite a while before that goes away. So, before I go off and do a homemade remedy, because, you know, my son said, oh, you go Google, watch on YouTube, you know, you need to educate yourself, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now I'm educating myself here. And there's some dude here that says put cornmeal cornmeal, Jiffy's cornmeal muffin mix. Mix it in with some baking soda. I think I don't know what the ratio is. I'd have to, right? But there's a ratio, more than half and half, right? Of baking soda, I think, to actually be effective in order to kill the rat or the mice, right? And you put them in a Ziploc container, which I should have downstairs, because I bought them for making, you know, when you make TV dinners and that kind of, or something you want to freeze them, there should be a big bag of Ziploc containers, those with the little blue lids. You take one of those, you put a little fucking hole in it, you put your little bait, that homemade bait at the bottom of it, and then you put it where you want it, and then if there's a rodent around, sooner or later it's gonna, or you could do peanut butter with baking soda. Sooner or later, it's going to smell it. It goes with the path of least resistance, what's the easiest to get to eat in terms of living in a house. Crawls into the container. The reason you use the container is so that other animals can't get into it. But besides that point, if you got it in Auntie Shemai's room and it eats the peanut butter or the cornmeal with the baking soda, it crawls back out. It goes back to wherever it was hibernating, like nesting or whatever, right? And then what? It dies there, and then you go into Auntie Shemai's room, and now it smells like a fucking dead rat? That doesn't sound like a very good idea. So I got to be careful what I'm doing here. Something like that would be good outside, because I would think that eventually they would just die where they're laying down. I don't think they'd come out looking for water, whereas if you use rat poison, is specifically designed so to have the rodent come out looking for the water. Now, I have rat poison around. I just don't know where it is. I'd have to look for it. It's either in my bedroom, tucked away, or maybe underneath the sink. Because every now and then in the past, I'd put them outside along, you know, under boards and stuff, right? And that's another thing. Rodents like that, rats and mice, they tend to go along baseboards. They tend to go along the walls. They're not so apt. Well, mice will go anywhere, really. They'll just run right across. Like Tisha, before she had Bella, be sitting on the couch, and the mouse would just run right by as she's watching TV. Like, mice are really cocky. They really are. Where rats would be more prone to go along baseboards and that type of thing, right? Because, you know, they feel safer with the baseboard, okay? And then, of course, if they have to scoot across something, they'll scoot across. But they tend to be more along baseboards and that type of thing, right? So, because I'm thinking, well, maybe put out the peanut butter with the baking soda, and I should have Ziploc. Otherwise, I'm going to have to buy Ziploc containers with those blue lids, which I'm going to price out and maybe just buy, because honestly, I can't guarantee that my shit will be down there. It should be. I remember seeing it the last time I was down there in Auntie Tisha's room. I used to have these round blue Ziploc microwavable tray, like microwavable plates with lids, and I bought those in like 1998, probably around the time when Marcane was born. I never used them for microwaving. What I used them for was I used to make TV dinners, and then I'd freeze them. And because they were nice round blue with a lip, with a nice cover on top, I could make a nice frozen meal that just easy to pop into a frying pan and warm it up after the fact, right? They were downstairs in Tisha's room. I know, because I never gave those things away, because I used them a few years back, right? Because I love them, and you can't find them anymore. And do you know that they're gone? They're gone. It was one of those big plastic bags, because I had them for my family when all my little kids were young. Bought them at the time when Marcane was basically born. And who threw them out or gave them away to somebody else? Because they're not there. I haven't seen them. Unless of course they were in the cubby and they moved them underneath the stairs, but I highly doubt it. Because I remember them being in Tisha's room. And when all that shit was going on with my shit being moved around from that 14-year-old food storage area and from underneath my cubby, I do remember seeing those Ziploc containers with the blue lids. But if I had to choose between that bag or the other bag with the plates, I would have chosen the plates any day. Because one, they were well made. Two, you can't find them anymore because they don't make them anymore. And three, they were more useful for freezing things when it comes to making TV dinners versus these little plastic things that they sell now with these little plastic lids, because they don't hold up with nothing. And I did them, and then I didn't do any more. I put them all in a bag, and they went downstairs. And as far as I know, they're still down there. But I don't think actually, you know, I don't think I should be setting poisonous stuff. Like, even if it's even if it's baking soda and cornmeal or baking soda and peanut butter, if there's a rat in the wall or something, or living in the, I don't know, like, I don't want it dying in the inside where it won't come out. Because even if I'm not, let's just imagine I have a rat in my room, okay? Right? And I put rat poison, an official rat poison down, and it eats it. I mean, like, it will come out looking for water, and then it will probably die, so that when I come into my room, I'd smell it. And because the chance of it coming out of the wall and dying there, wherever, you know, because you will be able to locate, as the smell gets stronger, where it is, right? And you'd be able to see it more than likely, right? Even if you just had to move a few things around. And then you could collect it up, you know, pick it up, put it in a bag, and dispose of it, right? Versus giving it peanut butter and baking soda, and then it goes back into the hole that it crawled out of. But where would it go? Right? I'm on the second floor. Does it crawl down the joist, down the 2x4, and go and what? Go back to the nest? Because it's a nesting animal, right? They nest. They have their burrows. They have their dens, right? You know, they have their sleeping quarters, right? So, you know, you would, right? Like, it's not nesting. There's nothing nesting in my room. If anything's getting into my room, it would only be because it chewed a hole through the baseboard. And it would be going in and out to a specific box or plastic container that they chewed through to get food and then take it back to their den. Like Tisha at the apartment, when I gave her that $75 worth of cornmeal, and she took that box, put it in the closet in her kitchen or whatever, forgot about it, decided she wanted cornmeal, went to go get cornmeal, and then discovered that the mice had already moved in. But that was their major food source. Because as for anything else in her kitchen, there was nothing to indicate that she had that mouse there. Right? It was satisfied with that one container. That's what I'm trying to say here. Well, that would be applicable to my room. If I have five or six containers, Rubbermaid containers, and they're not very big, right? They're like this. I got one right here. I'll show you. Like this. These are old. You can't find these anymore, I don't think, too. Right? But they don't care about it. It's just toss it, you know, whatever. Anyway, I have a row of these in my room with various different types of rice. Carousel rice, basmati rice, jasmine rice, sweet rice, and just a few others, right? Because, you know, I did that's food prep, right? So I'd buy on sale. It wasn't because I was necessarily trying to bring in variety, although as I was buying on sale and I was getting the variety, I thought, wow, that's cool. You know, when I get my kitchen organized, you know, we can teach Andre about different types of rice because different rice is good for different things, right? So I got my little label and I've got them all stacked up in a nice little row, right? And they got nice little lids on them. And, you know, if a mouse is going to take the time, or a rat is going to take the time to chew through the fucking lid, okay? It's going to keep going back to the same food stores, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They're not going to go from container to container to container, unless, of course, you've got quite a few rats, and I suppose they're real hungry. But if it's, you know, no, I think they'd be more apt to keep going because it's like, you know, it's like memory. You know, they're gonna, oh, I know where the food is, so they just run, grab it, and run back and go wherever they go, and then eat and whatever, and then when they're ready to eat again, they'll come back, go, and because they already know where it is, they're just gonna go through the same damn hole that they chewed until this container is empty, and then they're gonna go on to the next container. That's why you don't really want to store your food preps, quote unquote, in boxes, like cardboard boxes, right? Because it's easier for them to chew through than this kind of stuff, right? So, you know, sometimes though, when you're doing major food prep, it gets expensive. So I suppose if you have lots and lots of money and you can have $100,000 food prep pantry and everything's good to go, well, that's great for you. But for people like me, you know, we do what we can. So there are a few grains or beans or rice in Mylar bags that are in cardboard, whether like cardboard boxes, like, you know, right? Whether in Shimei's room from way back in the day, or whether just recently from what I did here on my bed, so that I wouldn't have to take them downstairs and stress anybody out down there, right? And then, of course, we've got these 88 pounds of peas that I need to deal with, which I would prefer, honestly, to put them downstairs, right? Oh, because the ambient temperature of Shimei's room is a lot consistent with being cool, because it is in the basement, so that when summer comes, it's still fairly cool. Whereas in my room tends to heat up because, you know, I'm on the upper floor and we bake up here, right? And I have to run a fan in my room just to keep it cool because I have a fair amount of food in jars, home canned goods, right? Not to mention the other things I have in there. So, you know, and when I'm in my room, you know, and I'm not, you know, like, obviously I can't work too much in my, I was getting near the end of whatever, and then of course the city came, put a monkey wrench in everything, right? So it's not like, but, you know, so now that my son is, like, agitated even more so with this, I'll make an extra effort to be due diligent in terms of ensuring that there are no quote-unquote pests, rodents, in the house, because when I move, I'm taking this shit with me. That's just the bottom line, right? I can't afford to lose any more money than I've been losing, even if those 2 cans of great beans, like great value beans, if those were mine and were tossed out of spite, I can't even afford to lose that. So why would I want to lose my beans and grains to argue with my son? To prove that I'm right and he's wrong. When he hasn't proven anything to me yet outside of. And what little proof you gave me, you didn't even let me hear it twice. Right? Like, right? I don't get it. Like, fuck, man. So anyway, so when I go in my room, look at this. This is where I get really angry. When I go in my room, I will make sure that I will double check for signs of rodents. And I will go as far as looking for the rat poison, and I'll make sure that I put a bag or two in a place where I think a rodent would run through my room, stealing food in the event of that's happening, for the purpose of, if it should eat it and begins to die, it's going to want to come out and look for water, and hopefully it won't die in the walls. So before I spend any money on muffin mix, cornmeal muffin mix, or whatever, containers, I'm just going to get some, I'll look for the rat poison. And I'll put some in Shimei's room too. And if my son wants to put some in the basement, because if they're in the walls, they will come out looking for food. There's not very much food outside for them to eat. If they're that desperate to get into the X Club and rip open a bag of empty shells of English walnut shells, looking for little teeny weeny pieces of walnut to eat, you don't think they're not going to raid a pantry, raid a kitchen, cats or no cats, if they're that hungry? And there's no food outside. It's been winter time. And they go for the least resistance. Right? They don't like to work harder than anybody else around town. If it's easy, they're going to go the easy route. If it's a possum, well, I don't know much about possums, but you'd think, oh no, possums, if it's a possum, apparently they're really smelly because they defecate where they live, right? So if a possum was in the walls, it would be defecating in the wall somewhere and you smell it. So it's not a possum. I highly doubt it's raccoon because there's too many places on the property for them to live. They're quite happy with their environment outside. They're not going to take their chances on the inside. So you can rule out raccoons. If it's a squirrel, it's going to be moving out soon because they don't stay. They only come for babies, to have babies, whatever, over the winter, let them grow, and then they all leave. Okay? And they normally live in the roof. I don't think they go up and down walls. So chances of it being a squirrel are pretty slim. We know it's not snakes, because we don't have that problem in Canada, or at least where I live. No rattlesnakes in the walls, unless somebody brought one in to kill me, that is. Because I'm the only one that's being attacked around here all the time, and honestly, I'm getting real fed up with it. All right? And then, so the only things left would be rats or mice. And you can basically rule out the roof rat because my cats would be up on the ceiling, not up on the ceiling, but they'd always be looking up at the ceiling, and right? You know what I'm saying? And I'd hear them. Andre would hear them. Amari would hear them. Sooner or later, we're all up at different hours of the day, right? You know? Sooner or later, somebody would hear them, and we don't hear them. In terms of the Norway rat, well, my experience is, if there's food in the house, they're going for the food. Yep. And they will chew through plastic. Yep. And if you have one, chances are you'll have more than one. Yep. But you don't want them dying in the walls. Nope. So rat poison is the best solution at this point. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm glad I did this video because it helped me to just really hone in on what I think is the best to do in the short term, being that what my son has done so far hasn't produced any results. So I am going to, I bought those, I got my coconut butter. I told you, by that coconut butter, it will give me a reason to get downstairs into Auntie Shemay's room, to take those ones downstairs and bring up the old one from downstairs, or at least make it more available as I look for the ones, the coconut butter that's in the jars, so that I can start giving coconut butter to Amari again, right? As well as I want to put the peas downstairs. Technically, I would like to put them in buckets. Technically, right? Considering now what we're talking about, why would I want to put them in Mylar bags and cardboard boxes, and right? Because those are sproutable green peas that I want to start using like on a weekly basis here at some point or another. Last thing I want is for them to be destroyed, right? Like, you know, like don't talk to me like I'm a fucking kid, man. Like, I don't like that. Like, that's just stupid. I'm like so fed up with it. So anyway, yeah. So, all right. Well, forget about this then. I'm gonna look for the rat poison today. I'll start looking for the rat poison, and I'll make an extra effort to make, if you think you have, you look around for rat droppings along baseboards, wherever, right? I'll phone an exterminator to price out whatever they offer in terms of figuring out if you have anything or whatever, right? And then if you do have something, how much does that cost? How long does it take to figure out if you have anything? Seriously. Because I watched a couple of videos. They can string you along like anybody else can string you along. Make you pay, right? And not produce any results. You know, like that's, I can't afford that. No. Now, if I buy buckets, because even though they can chew through a plastic gamma lid, I suppose, if that's the case, like I said, go downstairs. If they've gotten into Shemay's room, trust me, I'll find out real fast. I had my son look. He said he didn't see anything, so I took it for face value. Right? I told him what to look for. He said he didn't see anything, but I can do it. I can go in there and do a really good sweep. Yeah, and then as for my room, whatever, like I said, there's just these things. I don't have, like, there's not a lot. I have a few of these. I have the old Tupperware, a few Tupperware containers that have things in them that if there was a rodent in my room would chew through. And that's it. Everything else is jars, cans, and that kind of stuff. Buckets. So I guess I'll just keep you in the loop with this until we figure out more. Right? I'm just tired of being harassed with stupid shit, man. In terms of, like, it doesn't matter what I have to say. It's like I got a whip on my back. Again. For something that... see it as just I say it? You know, just like, you know, just something that, you know how you service your furnace once a year? You're supposed to service your furnace once a year? Or you're supposed to drain your water tank once a year? Those kind of things you're supposed to do, quote unquote. Clean your gutters once a year. Well, that's what this is. This is this once a year spot check, right? But I'm just afraid that if I don't find anything after I'm done what I'm doing, he won't stop. No, because he's bugging me. He wants to, I don't know what his issue is with me. Like, I'm moving people. I've already talked to Rhea. I told him yesterday. Oh, well, you can't say I'm going to be abandoning you. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Obviously not if I'm leaving you, right? Whatever. I talked to Rhea. I'm going to end it on this note. We talked about the what if. Can we do it? Could we do it? Would it be the right thing to do? How would benefit her or me or the kids or whatever, right? And we went through the pros and cons, I guess you could say. More pros than cons, because sometimes you don't learn the cons until you actually move in with somebody in a shared kind of accommodation type thing. And we talked about getting a house and what number of rooms that we would need, who would get the room, where I'd go with Amari, what I would need in terms of that big open. We were even discussing maybe taking over the living room versus being in the basement. In the basement, she could have her sewing. She's all excited about that, right? Where I'd be upstairs in the main living room area with the big, like I said, mattress for Amari with the bean bags, the piano, the Shimei's keyboard piano. You know, obviously I want the other small keyboard in case I'm playing and somebody wants to play with me or learn how to play. And then, okay. And with the bookshelves, with the things that I like, what I value. You know, I said, well, I have a lot of books, Rhea. Oh, I love books. Oh. I said, I have a lot of kid stuff, Rhea. I don't want to give it away. I'm not ready to give it away yet. You know, it doesn't make any sense. Some of this stuff Amari could use, right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, well, she's got kids too that would benefit from it. So, you know, if I'm living in the living room with a big queen-size mattress on the floor with a bunch of bean bags with a couch off to the side with an easy chair off to the side, you know what I'm saying, with a whole bunch of bookshelves with the things that, you know, the kids can come and, like a rumpus room, right? The only difference is it's a rumpus room / room where Amari can coexist with the family and be engaged with, you know, daily living, right? And we said that we'd try and make like 3 areas where it's easy to have him move from area to area within his either tomato chair or with the wheelchair, right? Where he's not just kind of like, right, compared to this house, because you have to remember this house is the equivalent of a small rancher in terms of square footage. Yeah. And it's just not working out. It never has worked out. That's why my kitchen is always congested, because I have no porch that can keep things dry where I can have that overflow so everything piles up in the kitchen. Anyway, besides that point, and then of course Amari would get a lot of social time, right, in terms of her kids. Her youngest maybe has autism, so you know, he's gonna have a, you know, he doesn't listen, and you know, I asked her to get his ears checked, right, because he acts like he doesn't listen, and he just very grabby, and just he makes clicking sounds and sounds like Amari, right, and really doesn't have vocabulary, and yeah, so you know, I mean, like, once he got into a routine in terms of boundaries, I suppose, as he ages, right? You know, him and Amari would get along fine, as long as he's not aggressive with Amari. And the few times that I babysit him and he's bouncing around, he's okay with Amari. And then she's got another child, but he's real quiet and shy. And he's about 5 or 6 years old now. So again, age appropriate for the most part, right? And then she's got an older boy that has some issues, and he's on medication. But we've decided that the boys will get their own room. Her oldest son will get his own room, and Andre will get his own room. And I told her I have DJ equipment. So if that's the case, Andre can have the DJ equipment set up in his room, and then I'm not being forced to sell it. Because if I stay with my son, I'll be forced to sell it, or it will just be taken away from me, people, as my landlady is nattering in the background to sell it and get rid of it. Yeah. Where if I maybe move and share a place with Rhea, Andre will get his own room with the DJ. I'm talking full DJ, 2 turntables, mics, right? Open mics, like, okay? Like ones that plug in and one that are wireless, I have, right? And the mixer, the only thing that we'd need is maybe a better amp. And in a situation like that, I'd probably, I have an amp. I have it hooked up to an old school amp here with old school speakers with my mixer. So we didn't have to buy anything. Plus I have a thing that you can play CDs in with as well. So he can put that into the mixer because it all plugs into the mixer, right? And that could be in his room. I have tons of musical equipment. We already discussed just hang a guitar here, hang it like in the boys' room. Like, you know, like her son, the oldest, could have a couple or 2, 3 guitars because I've got electric and acoustics, right? And a banjo. Just hang them all in a row. What do I care? What I care about is that they're not being sold off, pawned off, given away, thrown away, destroyed, and Andre never gets a chance to use anything or have any ownership to anything. So a couple guitars hanging up on Andre's walls, and a couple of guitars hanging up in her son's room, and you can have a couple of guitars hanging up where I'm hanging out with the kids. Okay? So and same thing with the drums. Okay? I'm just saying. So there's that benefit. And because I'm taking over the living room, because she said she wants a room for herself. Right? And she'll stay with the 2 younger ones. She's satisfied with that. Me, I get a room, but it's a pantry. I said, before anybody moves into any room, we need to determine which one is the coldest room in the house when it comes to upstairs. Because that's our pantry. That's where the food's going. Right? In terms of what I've got in this house. Not to mention wherever else we might put food. But definitely in my room. Okay? Where her room is with her and her 2 younger children. So we're looking at a 4-bedroom for sure. At least. 5 would be better, but 4 for sure. And then it'd be 2-story, right? Because she likes the idea of having an actual sewing room. She just didn't have one, right? And I said, well, I know what I want, even though I can't see. I know what I want for a sewing room. I got dressmaking forms. You need a big-ass long table where you can run 5 meters of fucking fabric on it if you wanted to, right? So that's in the centerpiece, right? And then you've got your dressmaking forms around it. You've got your little desks with your serger and this, that, and everything else. And then you've got your fabric, wherever you got fabric, right? And I got a lot of fabric. And then anything like beads and all that crap and the sequins. I got tons of sequins. I don't want to give that away. I don't want to be robbed of it. I don't want people just thinking that I'm fucking garbage and I'm fucking trash and I'm the fucking problem. But yet they can put their grubby fingers on it and take what they want and talk bad behind my back even after the fact of fucking robbing me. Because what? I can't see no more? I don't have a man to bully you and your man? Like, fuck off. Leave me alone. Like, seriously. Or my son, or whatever. Like, dad will just get the fuck out. Like, no dad around, so you think you can just come and take my shit? Like, fuck you. Like, I'm sick of it, people. And I just told her, if it's mine, my stuff. Because I got my stuff, right? Because there's got to be a little bit of boundaries in there. It will stay in my wall units. It's known that it basically belongs to me. But what am I going to do with it? I can't see no more. I'll be lucky to sew anything. But it kind of belongs to Andre. Right? You know what I'm saying? And she can teach Andre to sew because he wants to sew anyway. And as she's teaching Andre to sew, her son might learn. But she said if anyone was to learn, to want to sew, it would be her second child, the 6-year-old. I got little sewing machines for a 6-year-old, people. Oh, we're just going to toss that out in the bin, right? Huh? Call it junk? Call it trash? Yeah, okay. So I guess I better keep that little sewing machine. It's kicking around here somewhere. Yeah. So she's all excited about the sewing room, and so am I, because it gives a central location. And she said, yeah, and then I can just close the door and not have to worry about the kids getting into it. I said, exactly. Right? And you just set up an area, like she said something about, like, you know, oh, well, I like to keep them close to me when I'm sewing. I'm like, yeah, well, that's fine. Wherever you're sewing, you just set up a little play area. I've got easels. I've got paint. I've got coloring crap. I've got paper. I got crafts. I got it all. Right? So, you know, they can come upstairs. They can say hi to me. And they can take something from the shelf, like a little memory game or some kind of game or something. They can go downstairs as their mom's sewing. They can sit in their little play area. And they can play with it and then put everything nicely back in the box. And when they're done, right, they can bring it back up and we can put it on the shelf versus scattering it all over the place. Right? You know what I'm saying? Or if they're, you know, they have something and they want to leave it out, they learn to leave it out and they can play with it for a few days depending on what it is. And when they're done, they just bring it back upstairs and it goes back on the shelf. Amari will be getting daily stimulation, and he's very sociable. He really is. He loves Alea May and little Kyrie when they come over. He gets all chatty and stuff. Same thing with Maria's kids when they come over, depending on the time. Right? A functioning kitchen. I explained to her what a functioning kitchen is when you're dealing with a disabled child. And that's where the counter space is big enough where you have your main appliances that you need to use every day or every second day or every third day just to keep up with Amari's menu if you want to be good at it and consistent. And of course, because we've got 2 teenage boys, approximate age, the same, they can learn routine in terms of, it's, you know, they can cook. She doesn't want me to get rid of my cookbooks. You know how that makes me feel? She doesn't want me to get rid of any books. I still might get rid of some books because I got a lot of books, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, right? And, you know, they can get creative with the cookbooks and cook meals, whether they do it singularly or together as a team. Think of a co-op situation where, you know, you've got a bunch of people living in a house and they take turns cooking meals throughout the week. Well, that's the kind of schedule that I would like to get Andre on. And because I've got somebody else with me that's actually interested in Amari and helping me with Amari, and because her kids will naturally migrate towards Amari, right? In terms of, I'm keeping my old ancient TV with my videos that I've been rescuing and fighting hard to keep for the last 3 fucking years, because I have, well, in the grow room, I have the videos of Land Before Time, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, all those, right? You know, the series. I used to have the series of Land Before Time, but with everything being all whatever happened over there when all that shit ended up outside, I don't know if I have them all or not, but I'll tell you, I have a fair amount of children's videos, VHS videos, Walt Disney, and I have the VCR, I have the TV. I like it, right, myself. And if you look up and try and get Land Before Time on the like on these TVs that you get now, you can't even really find them. And if you find them, you have to pay. Why do I have to pay when I got a TV with the VCR and all the fucking videos? So of course they're gonna want to come and watch Land Before Time. What do I care? I'm blind as a bat. I'm not going too far. I'll be at the piano, typing out children's songs. People will be going in and out. It's a fucking living room, for crying out loud. You know, Amari will get lots of attention. Ria will be there to actually help me. And she'll get more freedom because of the family dynamics in terms of how we look after each other through daily interactions. The only reason she likes to keep them close, her 2 youngest ones likes to keep them close when she's sewing right now, is she can keep an eye on them and they don't go off and get into something. Whereas if I'm upstairs and they're in the living room watching Land Before Time or plucking on a keyboard or whatever, right, then she can be downstairs by herself and have some time just to really hunker down. Teach Andre how to sew. Right? Yeah. Like there's a lot of benefits around this, people. Have a proper fucking laundry room where you can actually use it. That's a big one with a disabled child. Yeah. So, I told my son, I'm not living with you, I'm moving, I'm going to make plans. I don't know how, I can't afford it. I mean, clearly I'm being wiped out financially. Mrs. Gill wants me to fucking give her $1,600 to $2,000, who knows, maybe more, I don't know. And now my son is putting pressure on me to go fucking spend another $500, maybe up to $4,000, looking for some phantom fucking rat. Yeah, okay. Well, before I spend that kind of money, I'll go look harder to see if we have that problem. Because you ain't going to have rats just living in a wall, doing nothing. In terms of never touching what's inside the house. They're just going in and out, and catching their food outside. No. If they're in the house, they're going to go with the path of least fucking resistance. And once you see that there's remnants of them around, then yeah, you deal with it. Take your chances with the rat poison. Because at least they'll come out looking for the water. And then you can scoop up on them. If they die in the walls, you're hooped. You're completely fucking hooped. We don't have mice that I'm aware of. Because if we did, you'd know. Just like we had that one downstairs, 7, 8 years ago. And it was a little pest. And my son bought a mouse trap, and he actually caught it. And once it was gone, it was gone. So anyway, I am talking about it. I've already found a home for most of my stuff. I just have to pack it up and get it there, if it goes in that direction. But the way things, you know, like, I don't even get a chance to fucking breathe. I go outside to work on a walkway, and what do I find in a recycling bin? More of my belongings that her autistic son, Ria's autistic son, could be playing with. Food that somebody walking down the road, crying, scared, hungry, or whatever, and sees 2 cans of beans sitting on a garbage can, might just look up at the sky and say, thank God for those 2 cans. Those are my values, people. If those 2 cans are still out there, well, eventually somebody's just going to throw them in the garbage can and I won't see it, and I'll cut my losses on it, because at the end of the day, 2 cans of beans isn't going to bankrupt me. But if my shit's being thrown out in the garbage little by little, surely by surely, in terms of my food prep, because somebody wants to sit up there and think that it's no good because maybe the can got a little dented or it's past its due date or whatever, well, that's just some real ignorant fucking shit, because it's not being done because it's not, the food is not good. It's being done out of spite. And that is what's driving me out of this house. Between my landlord with their spite, with they wanting all this money and, you know, and don't want to fix things in a timely manner, or just refuse to fix certain things and always putting fucking pressure on me for one reason or another for money, then, you know, I mean, to me, that's being spiteful. I don't feel safe, because I don't know what's going to happen next time she's going to roll for $4,000, $3,500 a month or whatever it is. And then my son coming in, putting on fucking more pressure as he's destroying my shit, talking fucking rude to me, calling me down, calling me names. You know, it's not like I got any kind of real relationship with that girl downstairs. It's to the point where I don't even fucking go downstairs. I need to go downstairs. I've been wanting to go downstairs, but it's so uncomfortable for me to go downstairs. So what the hell am I in this stupid house for? Yeah. It's just, I have to make a decision as to where I'm going to live and with who. They're not going to be with my son. We don't share the same values, like he says. That's a big factor. And just because you don't value toys and books and whatever it is that you throw away like it's nothing, doesn't mean I don't have a right to value it. And if I can find uses for it, which I have, I just explained it to you, he has no right to belittle those so-called excuses because they're valid. So that's this video.